Hello and welcome to DDOCast episode 335, recorded live on Saturday, May 10th. I'm your host, Patrick. With me this week, we have from DDO Gamer, Geoff Hanna. Welcome back, Geoff.
Hi, world. How are you?
We also have a new guest this week, Voodu. Say hi, Voodu.
Hey, folks.
This week's screenshot, Hollander calls for his pack in the Veil of Twilight in our 170th screenshot of the week. Thanks for a nice screenshot. Nice little moon wolf theme shot going on there. We like to talk about Dungeons & Dragons online nearly every weekend. You can catch us through Google Plus Hangouts, YouTube, or from our website at DDOCast.com. DDOCast is hosted by Cyber the awesome podcast hosting network, and shows are usually available within a few days of recording. The next show will be a recorded show, which should be out by next Saturday, May 10th or May 17th. Probably in the afternoon. It's going to be another Ask the Devs, and we're going to be focusing on bugs, hopefully. That's the plan anyways. Subject to change, but that's where we're going, hopefully. You can stay updated by following us on social media pages or our website, DDOCast.com, specifically with the calendar there. That usually will show you what's coming up. I'm trying to work at getting a little bit farther out and see where we're going and what the different shows are going to be, and I'm trying to update that as we go, but I'm waiting for my work schedule. That's kind of the thing here. On the podcast this week, we have lots of Update 22 news. Every time I take a week off, which is rare, Turbine has a news explosion. So we have lots of Update 22 news to cover, and we're going to do a little discussion on Augments, which was a request from a listener. But to start, let's say hi to Voodu. Voodu, why don't you give us a little bit of background on yourself, where you play, what you like to play, and such things.
Hey, I'm mostly known as Ginger Spice these days on the Sarlona server. I'm the guild leader of High Lords of Malkier Guild, and I'm the one that's been doing all these teaching raids every Saturday for about the last 3 months now. And tonight's we're going to do Fires on Thunder Peak and Temple of the Deathworm. There's been tons of interest in it, so I'm actually going to run 2 of those back to back. Should be a lot of fun.
If I was flagged and if I wasn't working tonight, I would totally come to that. But I don't have anything flagged on Sarlona.
That totally explains why I know your voice. My wife went on one of your teaching raids last weekend, and I was busy doing something else, but I could hear you for hours explaining every little detail of the Abbott raid, which ended up being successful, by the way, and she enjoyed it.
Oh, who's your wife?
Her name is Yvonne. She would have been on, let's see, what level were you guys? She probably would have been on Yazdia the Rogue.
Abbott's always a fun raid. Good one to learn. A tricky one to learn, too. But with that, thanks for joining us, Voodu, and we love people who like to teach raids, too. I like that kind of stuff. But we got a lot of stuff to talk about, so we're going to jump right in with game news, and we'll do the easy stuff first. They have a guild advancement survey that Turbine wants you to fill out. It's really short. It's 4 questions. It's basically, when was your guild created, and how long did it take you to get to level 100, or whatever level you are. When was your guild created, how many people are in it, and what level are you? So really quick, really easy to do, so please fill that out for them. Give them some extra information. They are changing the community guidelines a little bit. They're adding a rule regarding the policy of closing goodbye threads. It's not a change in policy per se. They just want to add it in for clarity and why they do that. It's kind of a back and forth between the devs and the players on that. Okay, that's the easy stuff. That's the boring stuff. Now the fun stuff. Epic 3-Barrel Cove. They had some information come out from Purple Foos. And I'm going to speed through some of this stuff. I want to hit a lot of highlights here. I'll try not to read too much and skim some of it, but it's going to be a lot of reading. And guys, feel free to jump in and interrupt me if you hear something really fun and interesting. The background for Epic 3-Barrel Cove is that rumors have surfaced of a giant treasure cache hidden somewhere in the cove by the pirate lord Harazat Ree before he was slain. That's the guy you kill in the Sentinels of Stormreach adventure pack in the... I can't remember the name of the quest. The last one, the Ogre Mage that you kill at the end. The remnants of the Blood-Tide pirates believe they can use the treasure to restore themselves to their former power, but it's treasure, so there's lots of other pirate crews looking for it. And for some reason, Sidonie will be the quest giver and will be around. There are some complex arguments and politics going on, Sydney is a little out of favor for siding with lesser races when Argoniston wanted to raise Stormreach. We're very happy they didn't. So she's there doing something for some reason. We're not really sure what, but she wants us to do her dirty work for her. And there's loot involved, so hey, what the hell. Monsters. They're completely replacing the old heroic monsters with a new list of epic monsters. There's some overlap between the old and the new because some monsters make ideal pirates at any challenge rating. For example, Warforged are on both lists, how they'll feel more like airship pirates than their original brethren. They're also adding a number of new, quote, native monsters, basically stuff that would be part of the landscape in general. They're adding harpies and yuan-ti. And basically they came to that conclusion because they made a short list and then they let the Players' Council vote on it, and that was the two they chose, to which I have to say, why harpies? I don't like harpies. That's just me.
They don't seem very piratical.
Well, those two monsters are supposed to be part of the landscape, not so much part of being a pirate. I'm not particularly sure why they chose harpies in that regards. It seems like an odd choice to me. But there you go. Plus, harpies are just kind of a pain in the butt. I don't really like them. But anyways, there you go. Epic 3 Barrel Cove takes place later in the timeline. That's why there's Wanty now. They've moved in since the events of the heroic levels. It's not on. Let's see, Swagan left, and then we'll get Wanty instead. Pirate crews will use a slightly different lineup of monsters from each other. For example, they're planning on a crew that uses a lot of artillery, using rune arms and explosives. Another crew might have only a small number of monsters which use rune arms. And completely different crew might specialize in undead pirates. Most pirate types are individually weak, but they are meant to work in conjunction with each other to threaten higher level players. They support airships, which are the real epic monsters. And this is where it gets really fun. Airship monsters. Each of the pirate crews is based on a pirate airship flying about the Three Barrel Cove landscape. It's a new thing, but they've been able to prove out the concepts in their prototypes. And each airship will be a single attackable monster with several attacks, including mage fire cannon broadsides, with different types of mage fire cannons or damage, and grappling hooks. Airships can shoot grappling hooks down to the ground, allowing the crew to zip line down and fight you on the ground. They have an early demo of that kind of video, and then they also so the players with powerful range attacks can directly attack these airship monsters. Melee players will be great against crew and marines, particularly the grappling hooks. There will be large ballista turrets that you can shoot the airships with, so you can try and shoot them out of the sky. And clever players can find ways to board some airships to fight the crew to the lower decks, destroying the airship from the inside. So, thoughts on airship monsters? Go.
The video looked really cool. I saw that video where they shoot the grappling hooks down and the Marines come down, and I was really excited to hear about that we're going to be able to man a turret and shoot down airships. I can't wait to do that. It sounds like a lot of fun.
The whole thing just sounds. I am so excited. So most of the other Update 22 stuff, okay, this, that, whatever, but I want to fight pirate ships. That just sounds awesome.
Yeah, I think that's what most folks are looking forward to. It looks like it should be a lot of fun, indeed. And airship battles. Who doesn't want to have airships fight? That sounds fun. Although it'd be a little more interesting if you could commandeer an airship. That's what I'd really like to be able to do: is commandeer a pirate airship, fly that around, and then see if you can shoot down another airship. That'd be a lot of fun.
I wish we could take our guild airships over there. Now, that would be badass, but they're so huge now. But that's a whole other story. You haven't got to Update 22 yet.
Nope. We'll hold on to that thought. So let's see. Some other things. There will be different Slayer and rare objectives on Epic and Heroic. They won't have the same exact list of Explorer points. Monsters in the landscape will be replaced on Epic. It's likely that some encounters will be on Random Encounter. But Three Barrel Cove has a ton of tight cliffs and walkways without enough space for random encounters to spawn, so those areas will get new statically placed monsters. They are planning on adding free teleport points across the landscape. The town area and the ship dock will be converted into a public area. They want to do this because it makes it easier for them to set up and place new epic quest arcs. The Epified dungeons will have the monsters completely replaced and may have some different objectives. The main layouts and critical paths will probably be pretty similar. They've chosen to do 4 dungeons to be epified. They're going to do Prove Your Worth, Ghost of a Chance, The Legends of Two-Toed Tobias, and Gnarl's Tomb, or Garl's
Wow.
Tomb. And then they're also going to have a 5th dungeon, a brand new epic-only dungeon, kind of the spiritual replacement for Guard Duty, where you fend off pirate airships attacking the airship carrying the treasure back to Stormreach. So there's your airship battle. That'll be fun.
Nice, nice.
And hopefully you'll be able to shoot your airship turrets at the other airships. That'll be a lot of fun.
Can you imagine the traps Improve Your Worth on Epic? Oh my.
It's probably been a good. I think I ran Prove Your Worth when it first came out, and I don't think I've run it since. I don't go to Three Barrel Cove very often, which is kind of part of the problem. That's kind of one of the reasons why I think they're revisiting this area as well.
I'm sure. It's a fun quest, but on Epic, wow, best watch your step.
I don't know. There's a lot of quests where they have traps on Epic that aren't too bad, so. There will be new epic treasure. It won't be different tiers of treasure by difficulty, but drop rates will likely be different on each difficulty. They've been vetting the new treasure with the player council, and they should be showing that pretty soon. They are revisiting the XP settings of the 3 Rail Cove Dungeons on Heroic, as well as Epic. They are going to work on a saga that connects Sentinels with 3 Rail Cove, which should be pretty fun. They're planning on adding that for Update 22. They're also making Storm the Beaches epic, which is the one quest from Sentinels that was never epified, which is kind of a weird thing. Although I'm looking forward to that because you can actually run that pretty quick if you know how. So I'm thinking that might be a new XP run. So we'll see. A tip: take the secret path. Let's see. Their initial design thoughts, they were initially trying to build a 3-way fight between the players, pirate ships, and dragons, which would have been awesome. It was too complex, so they cut the dragons. Boo. A little disappointing, but that's what we got. So, any thoughts on Three Bell Cove in general, Epified? Nothing.
Yes, but I don't want to do all the talking. I'm trying to wait for Voodu to go first.
I have to admit that when I heard that Three Barrel Cove was the next to be epified, I was a little disappointed. I do enjoy Three Barrel Cove, but after watching the video and reading about some of the things that are coming out, I am pretty excited about it now.
Yeah, I'm with you. I thought, well, we're already pretty piratey. Do we really need more? But I didn't anticipate that they would be swapping out all the monsters and coming up with this let's take on an entire ship as an encounter. So I'm much more pumped about it than I was when they first said anything.
Yeah.
In the Explorer Zone, there's a sort of an entrance on the far side. It looks like a big entrance to something they never used, and I thought, oh, this is where the raid's gonna be. I don't know if it looks like it's so big that it looks like a ship could sail right into it. I don't know if you know what I'm talking about. It's on the other side of the Black Lock Explorer Point. So I'm wondering if that's, this raid that they talked about possibly adding, if that was going to be the entrance.
Well, they pretty much said that there's not going to be a raid with this. That's not going to be until later, maybe.
Is the raid supposed to be part of Three Barrel Cove, or is it something totally separate?
I think it's supposed to be part of the next thing that they're doing in the Forgotten Realms, which I can't remember off the top of my head. But not with this, unfortunately. But yeah, I think Three Barrel Cove in general is kind of meh. Fighting airships? Yeah! That sounds fun. So, I'm excited about that. So we'll see where it goes. They are supposed to be like minimum level, or minimum level. They're supposed to be level 25-ish, with the loot being around level 24. So the loot's not supposed to compare too much with like the best stuff that's out in the game, but there are supposed to be some stuff that will be kind of niche items that will kind of fill some gaps that aren't really there before. In particular, I saw an early version of an item that has like fire resistance and fire absorption on it as boots. So improved firestorm greaves, which is kind of fun.
Those are amazing. They have freedom of movement on them. They're spectacular.
Yeah, there you go. Let's see. Next thing on the list, single weapon fighting and swashbuckler. So they posted some updates for swashbuckler, and they posted their ideas for single weapon fighting feats, which got they had their original idea for single weapon fighting feats was to add to the sides of your dice for your damage. So if you had a D6, you could make it be a D12 or something like that.
A D8. They were only going to add like 2 to
Well,
each side at each
you
level.
could, yeah, you could stack it with
Right.
and most of the players were like, really? That's lame. So the current iteration is while single weapon fighting, you get a plus 10% combat style bonus to attack speed, and then the improved version. So each of the 3 feats gives you an extra 10% to attack speed, and then the second one, the improved version, gives you 50% more of your appropriate ability score to damage instead of just your ability score, and then the greater feat gives you plus 100% to your to that score, so you get double your weapon die damage, or not your weapon die, your stat to damage. So that was just significantly better. The weird thing with these ones is that their feat requirement is ranks of balance, which thematically makes sense. And the reason why they're doing that is because they don't want people to get locked in with trying to figure out if they need to do strength for two-handed fighting, but dexterity for single weapon fighting. And they kind of want to get rid of some of that, make it a little easier to pick which stat you want to do, so you can just use ranks and balance. And the ranks and balance aren't terribly high. It's only 2 for the first one, 4 for the second one, and 7 for the third. So it's totally reasonable to do even if you don't have it as a class skill. Other things that they discussed include critical profiles, defensive bonuses, double strike, a new double strike, triple strike, the die side thing, armor piercing, increases all damage. Some of those may still be on the table, but they're less likely due to technical or design issues. But they're looking for discussions, so you can check out the limited forums for that. Let's see. The feats do not work with thrown weapons. That was a question that came up a few times. What are you guys' thoughts on single weapon fighting feats?
You want to go first, Voodu? Because I'm going to go on this until Patrick tells me to shut up or running out of time.
It's going to be all you. I don't play melee tunes. I'm all blue bar. I play bards, casters, healers, and that's it. So this is stuff that I'm probably not going to get too into.
Oh, no, see, I disagree, because I think that single weapon fighting is actually structured for you caster types. So my original thought was that it's a mistake for them to be chasing melee. May I just go, Patrick? This might take a minute. Hold up a hand if you need to surrender. But I think it's a mistake for them to be chasing melee with single weapon fighting. I really do, because it's just a treadmill. If they accidentally make it better than two weapon fighting, then everybody's going to swap over, and now nobody will do two weapon fighting. And if they don't, well, then everybody who's after DPS isn't going to swap over anyway. And if nobody wants to swap over to single weapon fighting, then the new enhancement tree is going to not fare very well either. So I was really thinking they'd be better served giving the feat just a dollop of DPS increase, so that it's a step above the DPS that you can do when you're sword and board, and then throw in a bunch of defenses, but not quite as many as you can get from sword and board, because I felt like that would give the combat style a distinctive place, a reason to exist. If you want to do the maximum with one hit, you get two-handed fighting. If you want to do the most hits and the most chances to proc, then you go two-weapon fighting. If you want to go, if you want some defenses, but not sword and board, I'm totally useless in DPS, then you go with single weapon fighting. And if you want to turtle up, then you grab a shield and go sword and board. So I still think that would have been a better direction, but I'm guessing that the weapon speed, well, I think that the direction they're trying to go is to come up with something that will work for artificers and eldritch knights, and maybe give them a chance to actually be built in combat, as combat versions, in addition to trying to support the new swashbuckler enhancement tree. So, and I think there's some pretty obvious hints to this, because they're allowing single weapon fighting to work with rune arms and with orbs. So I think what they're kind of saying is, yeah, it's not going to be top shelf DPS, but if you're a character who is of a non-melee class, well, this is probably what you're going to want, and this will be, well, see, now I kind of lose it, because you're already going to be behind in DPS, and now we're going to give you a less DPS-y melee style as well. I don't see that as a huge plus, but I think that's their intention. All right, I'll stop and take a breath. Your turn.
It seems to be kind of a weird addition to the game. It's not a playstyle that people really use. So I definitely see there's a lot of questions about, well, why are we trying to support a new playstyle? It doesn't seem like something that people are looking for. It doesn't seem to make a lot of sense. Now, I think you're on target with, for rune arms and orbs, it adds some stuff to that. However, if you're using rune arms and orbs, you probably, maybe rune arms you can get away with, but if you're using orbs, you're probably not going to have enough feats or really be looking to do that. Now, having said that, my bard might take a little bit of look at this because he can get some stuff out of like having an orb in his hand, but still, like, I don't have room to take the feats anyways on the bard, so I'm not really sure why we're going in this direction. Having said that, their feats for what they're trying to support seem to be pretty viable. I think the idea of having defenses kind of in there as well is a good plan. Again, not as much as sword and board. So there's kind of some weird things going on. I'm not really sure where they're intending to take this and why they really want to support this. Thematically, like if you're doing role playing, it can be a lot of fun. I can get that. I'm just not really sure. I don't really see what the point was in the first place. It seems kind of like an odd choice to me, particularly since it doesn't have. It doesn't work with shields. They want to do something different. They're still going to look at shields and thrown weapons and ways to improve those combat styles, but this is not that. Which kind of leads to more of a question of, so what's the intent here? Why do we want it to have this? Is it really going to be utilized by players? Not really sure. We'll see where that kind of goes. There was some points that I'll just kind of cruise through on some of the stuff that they came back with. They are looking. The coup de grace is something that's kind of up for consideration, which could be kind of an interesting thing. There, the single weapon fighting feats and swashbuckler are two kind of independent things that are going on, but they're related, which is kind of confusing. Basically, they don't really care about the existence of the other. You don't have to have one to have the other, and they have slightly different prerequisites, but they can overlap. It's kind of like those Venn diagrams where you've got this is single weapon fighting and this is swashbuckler, and they kind of do that a little bit, so you can get some overlap.
Yeah, but sadly, I think it's almost they almost contain each other, and I don't think that's really their intent. But I think that's the way it's going to end up working out.
Yeah. There are some things. Let's see. They're trying to stay away from adding too much dodge because they want people to be able to use these feats with heavy armor, which would not be very compatible. You can continue to swashbuckle if you have a scroll or a wand in your hand, so that's kind of an interesting choice. Let's see. Just kind of trying to skim through a lot of stuff. Regarding rune arms, this is not a balance concern, but rather a decision on build making. Rune arms represent a different style of play, currently restricted to artificers. They want to kind of maintain that. They considered whether or not they should let rune arms be used in single weapon fighting, and they decided that they wanted to support it rather than not support it. But they're not going to give artificers rune arm use because they want that class feature to still be unique to artificers. They don't want just a couple action points to make you an artificer, if that makes sense, which I thought it did. Let's see. All right. Anything else kind of pop out to you that you saw about single weapon fighting?
Other than it had such great potential, but I think it's really in the hands of a few bards, and that's going to be it. And that's really disappointing.
And we'll see where it goes all the time. There's also some changes to the swashbuckler tree. Some of the more prominent changes were you can now single weapon fight with a buckler if you are a swashbuckler who has the right enhancement. So kind of some support to use both of those feats. They also are putting more So you can use either charisma, dexterity, or intelligence to damage enhancements while single weapon fighting,
Hmm.
uh, which is kind of cool. Again, it kind of supports kind of more of a caster type, particularly with the intelligence, but some nice stuff going on there. They're adding maximum dex bonuses to armor and reflex saves, some stuff like that. So there's some work in there. Um, what do you guys think about the swashbuckler? I'm guessing Voodoo, you're probably not going to use too much of it.
Not so much.
That's fair.
But that's just my playstyle.
I think it could actually be a lot of fun. So I'm kind of, I have a bard, and he's been pretty much parked because War Chanter is not enough to make you a frontline meleeer, and Spell Singer is really, I mean, you have enough songs already, I think, really. So I think this might get my bard off the shelf. I don't think it'll turn him into an end game character, but I think he'll be fun, really a lot of fun in non-end game quests.
Yeah, I'm not really sure if my bard's going to use very much of this. My bard's kind of a weird bard. My bard is a bard. He does some melee. He thinks he can do some melee. He has a repeater feat, so he thinks he can use repeaters. Mostly he heals and he sings. Those are the two things he's good at. He can do some
Jack of all
adventures.
trades, master of none, right?
Yeah, he's a bard. Well, he's a pretty darn good. He's pretty much a master at healing. Even before they got the ability to have heal as a spell, my bard was a better healer than a lot of divine healers that I ran into.
That's how my bard is built as well. It used to be a repeater build, but I swapped that out recently.
I mean, the main reason why that's actually a legacy before that there were even artificers. I kept finding all these really nice repeaters, and I didn't have anyone
Right.
didn't have anyone that wanted to use repeaters. Well, my bard's got an extra feat. I'll give him some repeater stuff so he can kind of do some range stuff. Which actually worked out pretty good because he can do some ranged, he can do some melee. He's not great at either one. He doesn't do a lot of DPS, but he can contribute. He can get in there as melee and add some DPS if there's a lot of healing and do some minor support healing. He can back off and do a lot of healing as well. He can be a primary healer. And the repeaters are pretty nice for kiting, and he still got them.
I do have one.
Control.
I'm sorry. I do have one comment about the Swashbuckler. Is I think this is the closest to a tabletop bard implementation that DDO has had. So, I mean, I've played paper and pencil for years and years, and I've never seen a bard running around with a great axe or a heavy repeater, and that's what they do in DDO. No, they run around with rapiers, and they make funny combat jokes while they fail to do very much damage to anything. That's how they really work. So this is pretty faithful to the tabletop representation.
I would like to see. I think it'd be kind of interesting if they made it so that you could swashbuckle and single weapon fighting. Like there was because they have the different lines of like what you can use in your offhand and still be a swashbuckling and single weapon fighting. I think it'd be cool if they would add like you can use a dagger in your offhand. Make it limited so you can't just two-weapon fight with anything. But something a little bit because particularly they're looking at musketeers was kind of one of the things that they referenced as being some inspiration here. And musketeers do use both hands to fight with. Now they don't fight with two big swords in the hand, but a light weapon and a really small light weapon in your offhand. It'd be a lot of fun. And it gives some support to daggers too.
Kind of gets away from the whole single weapon fighting thing, though.
It does a little bit. I'll grant you that. But I don't know, just a thought. All right, let's move on to production malfunction. Came in with an end of week spring cleaning post. The big initiation of that was that they updated the known issues list. Some stuff went in, some stuff went out. So if you want to read the list, you can go there. I'm not going to read it because it was mostly minor stuff and nothing really jumped out to me. But there's some other stuff that he started talking about that we'll kind of cover real quick. On regards to having a list of bugs, no, they're not going to have a list of bugs. They've said it several times. It's not going to happen. Mostly because there's some issues with having it all out there. They don't want to disseminate everything to the public. Some would be exploits, for one. Big problem. You can PM him if you feel like something needs to be added to the known issues list is not there. The in-game reporting tool is on the list real soon, so they're going to be working on that. They're going to do some more work with random loot stuff, but not for Update 22, but it's in the pipeline. Regarding the calm drop rate, Epic Hard, so basically the devs are pretty happy with where the comm rates are based on their design intent, and they feel that the big disparity in where players think the comms should be and where they think the comms should be mostly has to do with the fact that people tend to run Epic hard over level. So you're basically not running. People like to run the same quests over and over again, and they tend to be lower level quests for more XP. So basically, the biggest XP per minute quest is not optimal for comms under that situation. Which actually is where someone did an experiment where they did level up from 20 to 28 and got enough comms to reincarnate, Epic reincarnate, without having to run anything by afterwards. I think they ended up with an extra 200 or so comms. So it is possible.
Nice.
Yeah, it was a good experiment, and I think it definitely supports what the devs are saying, that look, the way that players tend to run, which is where they run level 21 and level 22 quests once a day, every day, or twice a day, every day, to get XP a lot faster, but they don't get as many combinations of Valor. So it kind of supports that theory.
I kind of feel bad for the people that, like the solo or maybe more casual average players that are running quests on normal and they're pulling, 6 or 8 comms at a time. And I feel like they probably feel like they're never going to get 4,200.
Yeah, that's a sort of thing. Although the design implementation is that if you are on Epic Hard, you'll have enough.
You can solo at Epic Hard. It's not that much harder than Epic Normal. It's really not, especially by the time you get to Epic levels.
Yeah, I think I would still like to see the numbers go down a little bit. Actually, my preference would still be more accommodations, leave the costs where they are, and give you more options, more ways to spend your accommodations about it. That's my preference. But I haven't run into a problem where I couldn't Epic reincarnate yet, so I kind of don't really have a horrible or horribly applicable opinion on what the comm drop rate is. Let's see, other stuff they talked about. Someone asked about tomes being in Epic 3 Bell Cove, to which he replied, tomes always seem to show up eventually. Let's see. He wants to spend the rest of the year on fixing the core game, to which he declared to be kind of the 3 pillars were enhancements, epic destinies, and characters, how you play. Combat system was the second one, the act of playing, and loot, why we play. So that's some good news there, I think. There was also some talk about some ideas on some reasons to run Epic Elite, particularly some stuff like consumables that are only available on Epic Elite stuff, which he had some interesting. I thought it was some good ideas, and he said that there might be some direction that they might take that. And you can go a lot of different ways with that as well. So, and just because I thought it was kind of interesting, there was some talk about free-to-play versus subscription models. Free-to-play is pretty much here to stay. There's been a lot of articles written about it. But basically, it removes the game's biggest barrier of entry. So I think we're going to see a lot of games continue to go free-to-play and stay free-to-play, not just DDO. So let's see. Anyone want to add anything, comment anything that production malfunction was posting there?
No.
All right. Lemania is up. Update 22 is on Lemania. The schedule is basically they're going to have, over the next couple of weekends, they'll have some stuff. So this weekend they're looking at Epic 3 Bell Cove. Next weekend they'll be focusing on guilds and the Swashbuckler. The weekend after that will be guilds and other surprises. And then the weekend of May 30th and June 6th will be something going on, but they're not sure. They haven't kind of declared what it's going to be yet. They are doing some events this weekend. They actually did some stuff yesterday, some interview or some QA with the devs. The devs are online to answer some questions. But we'll get right into the release notes. And again, I'm going to try and go through some of these pretty quick. There's 3 Epic 3 Bell Coves there. Guild changes, which we'll cover in a minute. The Swashbuckler is there. The first thing that kind of jumped out at me was a bag deposit box, named subject to change. Is a new shared account storage tab that can be used to hold anything that fits into a storage bag, including ingredients, collectibles, event items, and more. The tab can be found by visiting a banker in-game. Players can drag an ingredients or other bag to the UI tab to have the ingredients and other items inside automatically populate into the bag deposit box, i.e. you can dump your bag really fast, which is pretty cool. Free and premium players get 12 slots for free, and VIP players get a total of 45 slots for free. The
Wow.
bag deposit box can be expanded by visiting the DDO store. So that sounds fun.
I didn't think about using that to just empty my bag all at once. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's a little small. 45 slots as a VIP. That really doesn't actually get you very far if you consider the fact that I have 2 large bags of ingredients in my bank, in my shared bank, and both of those have over 45 items in them. I think one actually statically sits at around low 70s because of what's in it. The other one has a little more space. So 45 slots isn't going to go very far, and that doesn't include collectibles, right? I have 2 collectible bags in that bank as well. But having said that, I kind of like the idea. It's more storage space. You could put stuff in there that you want to be more easily accessible. I'm in favor. I don't know if you guys have any thoughts on this.
How can you complain about more storage space?
Yeah. Yeah, even if it was just 45 extra shared bank slots, that would be a big win as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, I mean it's not quite that, but you can. It does say that you can expand it in the store too. So I don't know how much you can get out of it, but it seems like hey, more storage space, yay!
Heck yeah.
I'm gonna skip the airship stuff in the notes because we're talking about that in a minute. Combat monsters will now aggro when players shoot their nearby friends at long range, which I thought they were supposed to be doing anyways, but. Monster AI has been adjusted to improve the ability of enemies to detect players and improve game performance, particularly in regard to aggro and when damaged. I'm hoping that means some lag and instant crashes will go away. They're adding an epic hireling vendor to the marketplace. New named bucklers have been added to the game
Good.
to support Swashbuckler. The key to the city can once again be used on guild airships, and there was much rejoicing. Some item lighting effects have been adjusted to improve game performance. Hold your thoughts on that. More on that in a minute. Kludjargs. The red-named battle rangers are now actually Kludjargs on hard and elite difficulties. I have no idea what that means because the only thing that I run on hard and elite that has those would be the raid, and they seem to be those anyways. I'm not sure what if they weren't. These creatures now have a higher physical resistance rating that goes away as their armor is sundered off and have had their hit points reduced. Yay! Those things have a lot of hit points. I think on hard in Temple of Deathworm, I think there's somewhere around like 67,000 hit points on those things. They are beefy. Let's see. Characters above level 20 can now engage in PvP arenas. I didn't know you couldn't do that. But there you go. Storm of the Beaches now has an epic version. Yay.
Yeah, that'll be fun.
Yeah, it was always weird that one didn't have epic version, which I always thought was kind of lame because at least on heroic, even at level, you can run that in like 7 minutes if you know how to do it. Hint: take the secret passage and use a ranged weapon.
Which is the guy you got to talk to get to the secret passage?
The
That's
guy
not
on the
the
right.
wizard.
No, it's the guy on the right.
Guy on the right, yeah, that sounds right.
The rogue guy, right? Yeah,
Yeah.
because the center is the captain. Okay. I always talk to the wizard because I liked it, the random teleportation. It's always a surprise where I end up.
No, you take the secret passage, invite yourself up to the top, clear the top of the thing, and then you can shoot all of the ballistas from that point.
Right.
You don't have to go down at all. And then the way into the back door into the end fight is just off to the left as you're looking out. There's a locked door that you have to get around, but usually the monsters will open it for you. Spells! Most spells and the Favored Soul's Angel of Vengeance Summoned Archon no longer emit light. This change has been made to improve game performance. And Rainbow of the Dark became much less popular.
Exactly.
Oh, wow. Yeah, okay. It said most, so we'll just have to figure out which ones still emit light and use those and hope it's web.
Well,
I really liked having my own personal light on my shoulder in that quest, but I'll miss those days.
no more. It's still fun. I don't know. You can get by without it, but it was always a really convenient thing. Although, Chandler was in there with my favorite soul. I had the light stick anyways because it's good for a caster. It gives you some bonuses there. And then the shards for KQI window will now properly be suppressed by checking the display box. Yay. Alright, those are the easy release notes. There's some other ones. You can go look at those if you want the full list. Now let's talk about guild airships and amenities, because this is exciting.
Have you messed with it yet?
No, I haven't gone on Lamania.
I spent a few hours there, and I built out a ship.
Yeah, how'd it go?
Do tell.
Well, okay. It's very handy in Lamania because you can go to one guy and create a guild, and he'll bump you up to level 200 right there. Boom. And you can grab all the money you want. The only thing you can't do is buy enough shards to buy the top-level tricked-out boat, because they give you some points to buy shards with, but it's not enough. Because you need like 3,800 shards to get the top-level boat, and they don't give you anywhere near enough turbine points to do that.
Is that still a guild cache, so like multiple players can dump into that to get to there?
Yes, everything works the same so far anyway. You even go into the same dealership to buy your stuff. And it doesn't have any of the super high level stuff yet. All of the boats they have on sale right now are available today to guilds up to level 100. The amenities, though, work very different. I mean, you get on your boat, and at the top of the boat is empty, and there doesn't seem to be a place to put anything, and maybe that's just because this is the first release. But there's a big button there, and it's called Button. And you click Button, and he gives you all of the buffs that your ship has all at once. So you don't even have to go below.
So it's better than the button of winning, is what you're saying.
It kind of is the button of winning. It's like the button of win buffing or something. I don't know. But anyway, me and Button are going to be good friends, I can tell. When you try to go below, it turns out you've now got a 3-story ship. I'm sorry, 4 stories. You got the top deck, which, like I say, is empty except for my buddy Button. And then you have the first deck, the second deck, and the cargo hold. And the cargo hold is a big room, I don't know, probably about the size of, say, maybe the portable hull, and it's got all of the old hook points in it, just stacked up on top of each other, ass to elbow, right next to each other, bang, 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 bang. So if you want to continue to do it old school, you can stock up on the existing style of enhancements, and that's where they'll go. And I assume that they tie together with my buddy Button also, but I don't know, so I didn't happen to have any on me. The first and second deck are for the new style amenities, and they don't work like the old style. Instead of buying, a shrine that gives you fire resistance, you buy a room, and it's filled with crap that gives you like 2 or 3 things all at once. But you can't really. You just have to guess what it's going to give you because none of them are hooked up to actual buffs yet. So you can see what they look like, and you can place them, and some of them are really quite stunning and very interesting and strange to find on your ship. Like, for example, the Black Abbot. What's he? I don't want him on my ship. But apparently you can get the Black Abbot on your ship. And there's a place called the Wild Glade that I assume is for druids, but once you've put that on your boat, you start finding little frogs and deer and crap all over the place where you weren't expecting. Things leak out. and there's a bathhouse for the perverted amongst you, and there's I don't know. I got a whole list. There's probably 40 things. And
There's a dance room, isn't there?
Pardon?
There's a dance room,
There is a dance room, and it is a full-on disco. It's
That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah, it's Otto's Irresistible Dance Hall, and it has the flashy light up on top, and then the bottom is a bunch of runes in the floor that all change color. It's Saturday Night Live or Saturday Night Fever has come to your boat on either the first or second deck. So
see, that's where I'll be parking my tunes when I'm AFK.
So it's still really glitchy, like the hook points stop working sometimes, and you have to like go to the second floor and then back to the first to reset whatever it is so that they'll start working again. The UI says, the caption of the UI is another DNT string, and the Kobold First Mate, guess what he says? He says string table error, but none of the amenities actually give out buffs yet, but they look freaking awesome. So, like I said, there's got to be 40 of them, and even I was on a 100 level ship, and I doubt I could slot more than 15 of them. So you're gonna have to make some real choices. you're going to end up with those 15 things are probably going to end up being more powerful than the old style, even if you had it filled out. But that still means there's 25 things you're not getting. But it looks really cool, and I'm really excited to see it get fleshed out and see what kind of buffs start coming out of it.
Sounds fun and exciting.
It is. It is.
So I'll go through the Dr. Octothorpe wrote some stuff on here, and I'll kind of cruise through some of that again. As Geoff mentioned, there's an entirely new and different set of amenities. New amenities aren't lost on death and will pause in public and log out and last much longer in general.
Beautiful.
Woo!
Yeah, 6 hours.
Yeah, that's a long time. Jeez.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you don't lose them on death. That's pretty spiffy. Although I kind of always liked that mechanic personally because it kind of gave you a carrot for not dying, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I'm not going to complain. I die, so I'm not going to complain about that. There's a buff bar on top deck that you mentioned. Max skill level goes up to 200. There are 6 new airships, even bigger than the current 6. And the current airships are getting reworked. This will be around. Let's see. The new amenity spaces, you won't just drop the new amenities somewhere on the floor. When placed, each amenity will fill its space with decorations. The ships are laid out with a series of holds designed to hold 1 amenity each. Airships will also feature staterooms, extra large spaces that could house more ambitious amenities like a complete Kenneth crafting set, or all the elemental resistance buffs in one place. Holds are packed with value. On average, they'll come with several benefits. For instance, one amenity holds a mailbox, a banker, and an auctioneer. Another, the Arcane Sanctum, offers saves versus enchantments, maximum spell points, and spell penetration bonuses. I think all 3 of those are actually new amenities in and of themselves. By and large, bonuses are simply better. The single caveat is that where appropriate, buffs now scale to level, which can be good and bad. There you go. In addition, some amenities such as elemental resist come in tiers. The very top tiers don't just offer flat elemental resistances, but percentage resistances instead. Woohoo! See, duration is longer, as we mentioned. Old amenities. There's the special cargo hold that Geoff was mentioning. Any contracts you've got can be placed there and used as long as they last. However, you do not get to buy new ones. So if you
stock up if you want to do it old school.
Yeah, if you want to do it old school, stock them. I'm assuming there's an XP shrine or a new XP boost.
There's 5 of them. They come in 5 different levels, and it's a whole room, and it's one of your big rooms.
Do they give you more than just the XP bonus?
I don't know. Nothing gives you anything right now, other than cool looking.
So we'll have to see about that.
Yeah.
I might stock up on some XP shrines. We'll see. Let's see. Airship alterations. The upper decks will look fairly familiar, but they get a little bit of swabbiness to them. Let's see. I like this. If you have the Far Shifter amenity installed below, the captain will automatically offer to take you to Far Shifter locations. Yay.
Nice. Yeah, nice.
A nice little bonus there. Let's see. There's going to be a new UI in buying new airships, but it's not out yet. The new amenities are permanent. Once you've got them, you keep them. Of the 40 new amenity types, you'll be able to buy about 75% of them for platinum directly from your airship. You'll be able to obtain the remaining amenities as follows. They will almost all appear in quest and reward lists. A few will be rare drops, so that's kind of exciting.
Wow.
Yeah. You will be able to buy them for astral shards from your airship. Amenities found on a personal or on quest reward list will go into your personal inventory, but most amenities will never touch player inventory space. We've created a new guild inventory concept to hold our permanent amenities when they're not placed. Using an amenity deed from your inventory on your airship will move it into that guild inventory space. So it sounds like that they don't ever expire, and once your guild buys it, you can slot it in whenever you want.
Right, but they've got the percentage wrong about which ones you can buy with plat and which ones you can buy with shards. And unless this is just the first version. But most of them you could only buy with shards. But they have them at like 10 shards, which is, this can't be, it's going to go up, I'm sure. But again, even if it's expensive, I don't mind this so much because there's in-game ways to get shards. And they're permanent. So you buy it once and you have it forever. It's not going to decay or go away.
Which is pretty slick.
Yeah.
So usually in stuff like this, the numbers they haven't really figured out yet and they haven't finalized any of that stuff. But we'll see where it kind of ends up. But it all sounds exciting so far. Let's see. The big news is that guild levels are extending to 200. Here's how it's going to work. The renown XP curve will basically flatten out after 100. A fun fact, if you didn't flatten out the renown curve, you would need a cumulative 4 billion renown to reach 200. That's a lot.
I'm hearing some rumors about the extra XP we have banked, whether or not it's going to count.
It's supposed to.
Okay.
Any banked renown for level 100 guild will apply. That's what's supposed to happen. Through a series of tricks, airship amenities now unlock on average earlier and easier than before, i.e. they lower the levels.
Yep.
New airships and other items will continue to unlock through guild level 150. So all the stuff you can get is 150. That's what you have to hit to get the bestest of the best stuff. However, that leaves 50 levels, guild levels left over. What they're going to do there is they're going to turn guild decay on for levels 150 to 200 only. These are bragging rights levels. Your guild title text will even change different colors in recognition of your status. And you'll be able to find out what the highest ranked guild in your server is. So, some fun stuff there.
You want to here's the large amenities. There's only 6 of them. There's most of them are small amenities, but the large ones include the bathhouse, the Kneath crafting station, which is everything you need to do Kneath crafting, the Collegium of the 12. It's pretty, but I have no idea what it does. The Grand Reliquary 4. Well, that comes in 1 through 4 versions, and I don't know what they do. They look cool, though. The Green Steel Crafting Hall that has everything you need to do any kind of green steel crafting, all of the altars, and something called the Proving Ground, which is where your training dummy is, amongst other things.
Interesting. So, we're pretty excited to see that stuff get fleshed out and see what's where. Some other notes. Bacon will still exist on the airships. We will not lose the bacon. That's important. There was a big outcry when that happened, when the bacon went disappearing.
As long as the hot tub and the bacon are there, we're fine.
Yep. The new amenities that drop should not be bound. They don't expect them to be. They haven't really figured it out, but they don't expect them to be. Again, costs are something they're going over. They're not really sure what they're going to be entirely. Let's see. If you use the button at the top to buff yourself, it will buff your pets as well if you have them summoned.
Outstanding.
Pretty sweet.
Yeah.
And I think that's kind of all there is to say about that.
That's a nice little addition, because my wolf is a very disobedient little wolf.
I think it'd be a pain to have them click on everything too. Some of them they can't actually get even because they can get things that are shrines, but they can't do anything that requires a text box.
Right.
Yep.
So that's all the new news. So a lot of exciting stuff. Hopefully we cruise through that at a fairly decent clip. Some bugs. Sagas will continue to remain unavailable until the release of Update 22. And then on Lemania, monsters in Epic 3-Dollar Cove are being prevented from spawning. So it's a little bare cupboard there. There's still some stuff there, but they're having some trouble. It'll be fixed in the next Lemania build, but this landscape will be more empty than it should be. The Update 22 items are still a work in progress. They're popping up, I think, as minimum level 28, and they're supposed to be around minimum level 24, so that'll be changed as well. Bonus days. Let's see. Because sagas are not available until Update 22 launches, we get plus 10% bonus XP. Yay.
I'll take it.
Yeah, right. Let's see. There is a double boarding party. For some reason, they're kind of going pirate themed with the bonus days. I'm not sure how this is pirate themed, but they're going with pirate theme and calling bonus days boarding party this month. Until May 11th, that's tomorrow, you get double combinations of Valor, and the doubling bonus is fixed. So if you were to get more than 100 combinations of Valor, you will get more than 100 combinations of Valor. It's pretty awesome. The Crystal Cove is here through May 14th. They did not update the loot and they won't do that until after Update 22, but they raised the cap. You can go up to level 35 in an instance now. It's pretty fun. However,
so they're going to be adding some new items?
Not this round.
This time. They're not going to do a loot update until after 22 with that. But you can go higher, you can get more stuff. If you go in level 30 or higher, you do not get XP. That's another bug, but you can still get shards. They also lowered the map piece turn-in requirements down to 2,000, unless you're on Wayfinder, in which case it's only 150 to try and get those to go through a little more often. Sales for the week: 20% off of Astral Shards, 20% off of Guild Renowned Elixirs, 50% off of Guild Charters, and 75% off of Airship Beacons. And I know Geoff has something to say here.
Yeah. Astral Shards and Airship Beacons have never been on sale before, ever. And Airship Beacons are so cheap now. I went and bought 300 for the same cost as one Raise Cake. And I go through Raise Cakes like they are a bowl of Fruit Loops. So I'm going to stock up on these. I'm going to buy so many. I'm just going to be stuffed to the gills with Airship Beacons.
I'm cheap. I'll run. I'm not quite that lazy.
Teleport.
That too, yeah. If I can, my character teleports scroll and teleport to the marketplace all the time.
Yeah. But I have characters that can't teleport, so instead they're going to have probably an entire panel full of nothing but Airship Beacons.
See, UMD or reroll.
I have all of these cards sitting around, and one of the things that I can get with them is Rods of Teleport. I don't know. The freebie for the week is Butterrum Coffee times 5. The code is YAAAR5. YAR5.
Yarr.
I think those give you hit points and spell points back if you're in a public area. All right. Chronicle news, or community news. DDO Chronicle 91. So this was last weekend. Aiden Ruko offers a cool tip to help calculate distance in DDO for point-blank shots and other benefits. It was a pretty cool one. Enrique looks at loot from this year's Festival of the Traveler in a new blog post, which I didn't read. Voodu's Guild ran Master Artificer and Lord of Blades teaching run. Right, that was last weekend, right?
Yep, that was a lot of fun.
Good. You guys have been doing that for a while. Celestial Empires, the guild, a small Orion-based guild with a casual attitude and interest in growing their ranks. The guild is solo player friendly with a fully stocked airship. Which is kind of weird to say. A guild is solo player friendly.
I read that and I laughed.
I can see it. It's just kind of funny. The canonical comment for that week was, what's the greatest accomplishment you've ever achieved in DDO? And we'll start with Geoff.
I met my wife playing DDO. How are you going to top that?
I should have gone first then.
Yeah.
I can't.
Geoff wins. All right. Voodu, what's your greatest accomplishment?
Oh, God. I didn't know I was going to be asked this question.
We ask you lots of questions on the show. It's more fun that way.
Um,
I'm trying to think what mine is. Geoff's got me all flustered now because Geoff was so good.
I know.
It's just not fair. Oh, man. Probably the greatest accomplishment was when we did Epic Elite Fall of Truth right after it came out. We may have been the first ones on the server to do it. I'm not sure if we were or not. It took us a couple tries, but we did it. And on my Barbarian, I died the least. I only died once the whole time.
That's pretty
Epic
awesome.
Elite.
Especially on a Barbarian.
Yeah, and I'm talking like this is at most 2 weeks after it came out. I think it was more like a week after it came out. Once on a Barbarian. That's my greatest accomplishment.
Pretty cool, but not a wife.
Yeah. You still got me beat.
All right, sorry.
Let's see. We got a shout out for our last DDOcast, which was Fire on Thunder Peak. DDO Gamer got a shout out for updating his Evasion Battle Cleric build. Kind of an interesting little build that you had going there. Let's see. The 92nd Chronicle, that will be this week's. Enrique looks at the Searing Heights in a new blog post. Cyprine creates a swashbuckler and a new piece of fan art. A nice piece of fan art there.
Yeah,
sure.
really nice.
Events. Okay, there's a couple things going on. The 5th annual Halfling Summer Games begin on Kyber. That's coming up soon. They run pretty much every raid possible and every iteration possible, normal and heroic, heroic and epic. Throughout the summer, you have to be a halfling to go play.
That sounds like a good time.
Yeah, it's. I've never actually joined the. I think I've seen it. I may have joined once or twice. But I don't really. Not something that I made it a point to do. But they've been doing it. 5 years. That's pretty good. The High Rollers on Canada are running a guided tour of the Hound of Zoriat and Vision of Destruction, and that is today. I believe it's at 2 p.m. Pacific time. High Lords of Malkir, our friend Voodu here, are running Fire on Thunder Peak and Temple of Deathworm. Good luck, sir.
Thank you.
Should be a lot of
Still
fun.
got spots open. We're doing
When are
an
you
8
running?
p.m. run and a 10 p.m. run of both of them because there was so much demand for them.
I may
Yeah.
see you there.
Cool.
I need to run those.
Send me a Talon game. Ginger Spice.
Temple of Deathworm is that's one you gotta learn for sure. There's some tricky things there. The mirrors aren't trick for the mirrors. They're really not that hard.
They're not.
Start at one end, and it's pretty obvious what you need to do until you get to a point. You might get to a point where you have to decide which way to go, then go to the other end and start from there. And usually it becomes pretty obvious how to connect the dots. There's like one puzzle where there's two ways that you can go that's a little tricky. Also, another tip for Deathworm, you can move the laser. You can turn the laser, not just the mirrors. One of the puzzles that makes it a lot easier.
Oh, I didn't realize that.
Yeah, there's one of the shadow puzzles. You can turn. If you turn the laser, it's shooting towards the upper portion of the temple. If you turn it 90 degrees to the right, it makes it a lot easier to solve.
I'll also say this about our teaching raids tonight because we had a request. We will not be doing the gravity room. You don't have to do every puzzle. Yeah, but in a group, especially if you're learning it, that could be a little disorganized.
Yeah, it took us like an hour and a half to figure that room out.
And you don't have to do every puzzle, right? There's no scenario in which you would ever have to do the gravity room.
The funny part is some people like to do, because you get 2 of 3 rooms at 2 different points, and it's funny if you run with different groups of people, which ones they prefer to do. I hate red light, green light.
I love red light, green light.
I would like it better if it worked better. It's a little glitchy. But gravity is just a small puzzle. I think it takes just about the same amount of time to run red light or to run gravity as it does red light, green light, and people don't tend to die in it. But that's me. Anyways, the guild for this week was Gothiscanza, is a Canith-based guild looking to expand their membership. The guild has weekly raid night and organizes regular Epic Elite runs. The comment: if you were made a coin lord, what would be your first official mandate? And we are not starting with Geoff this time.
My wife. No, never mind.
Let's see. If I was made a coin lord, my first official mandate would be. Oh man, that's pretty. I'm gonna say we're gonna have a disco. We'll move a disco room into the center of the marketplace for everybody to play in. That's what I'm going with. Voodu, what are you gonna do as a first official mandate?
Extra bank space for everyone.
Nice. Geoff?
I'm not so magnanimous. I'm going to promote my Hagglebot with benefits, whose name is Coin Surf. I'm going to promote her to Coin Lord, put her in charge of the Stormreach Treasury, and demand 10% of all your gold every week. That's what I'm going to do.
Well, we know who the despot in the group is.
Wow. Spoken like a. Well, he got the role playing of the Coin Lord down pretty good.
That's right.
Let's see. DDO Gamer had a road less traveled by post, which was a nice little post. It was mostly about going to different places, right?
Places I haven't been yet that I need to, including Temple of the Deathworm, and that, so like I say, you might see me tonight.
Please join us. I got room in the 10 o'clock run.
Let's see. Oh, actually, while we're on Deathworm, before we get too far away from it, tip for the gravity room: if you're hanging on a ledge, the gravity doesn't shoot you in the air. Great tip. Twitch, DDO Twitch, they did one last week. Cordovan ran Attack on Stormreach on Kenneth, and this week they did Web of Chaos on Orion. Let's see, some blog things. I wanted to highlight 2 of DDO Gamers' blogs. You did a loot run in the Thunderholm area, which was a good one. Nice little short route to a chest. And then you also were talking about swashbuckling and single weapon fighting, which we kind of already talked about today, but again, kind of commenting on whether or not it was viable and stuff.
Okay. Do you want me to talk about that again?
Sure.
Because I got lots of words left.
If you can do it, I'll give you 30 seconds.
All right. My proposal for single weapon fighting is +1 to weapon enhancement, stacking with everything, so it's combat style at each level of feat. So that's not a lot, but it's enough to boost you above sword and board damage. And it also is nice if you're a caster because it would count as an implement and raise your implement bonus to spell power. And also, plus 5% to concealment, again a style bonus, and you get that with each feat. So there isn't any other direct way to add to blur. Here you go. Now you've got a reason to play single weapon fighting. And if you can make single weapon fighting something that other classes might consider for certain types of builds, then you're guaranteeing that the Swashbuckler Bard is going to be popular too. So, okay, that's the end of what I had. That was, I mean, my argument went to about 1,200 words in the blog post. I suggest you check it out. There were some good comments on it too, and in fact there were 2 blog posts about it. Lots of good comments. It's a good discussion. What was the other one you asked about, or you mentioned?
The loot run.
Oh, yeah, the loot run is how to get to one chest, which is in the wilderness area, without using any resources. There's step-by-step instructions and also a video.
Very nice. On the forums this week, there was in the last 2 weeks, there was a DDO Book of Measurement post, which was kind of fun and interesting. Basically, it looks at different height calculations and distance calculations and weight calculations. It was a fun little post, and I highly recommend just taking a peek at it. We'll link that in the show notes. And then the dev Knockback asks, what's your favorite short line? He's working on some sort of project that he was a little vague about. So what's your favorite short DM line? It's not short, but mine has always been, welcome, traveler. You will learn to call this place home as I have.
Oh, that's a good one. Yeah.
Wizard King.
Yeah.
It was appropriate at the time because we spent a lot of time when that came out in Wizard King, actually. Do you guys have a favorite short line?
Go ahead, Voodu.
You know, it's not a DM line, but I just love the vampire laughs, the maniacal laughs that they do.
Ah.
Just kills me every time.
For me, it's tough to choose. Does it have to be a DM line? Because if so, it's, save me! I so want to be saved!
Oh my god, no.
I love that. It's just so funny. The DM pretending to be a monster, pretending to be a girl. That's just awesome. But my favorite lines overall are not DM lines. They're kobold lines in The Black Loke. And it's when you come up on the kobold who's dueling the hobgoblin, and it's text only, and he says, "You holding you feet's all wrong. Who teach you how to duel?" That one just kills me every time.
DDOcast news. We have a survey going on right now. You can get an in-game prize with that, and you can win one of 4 500 turbine point codes. So we'll link that survey in the show notes. It shouldn't take you too long. It's kind of some feedback for myself and where the show's going, and just looking for some tips and roundtable topic ideas, stuff like that. And then there's also, I wanted to highlight, 10 Ton Hammer did an article on alignment in MMOs basically going away, which is kind of an interesting article in and of itself, but it also gave some nice descriptions and examples of alignments through the article, so I'll link that in the show notes as well. And that was the news. Woohoo! That was a lot of news. All right. Now we're going to do our roundtable discussion, and this is going to be on augments. And Dormer asked if we could do kind of a walkthrough of what kind of the augment system, what are some good ones, and stuff like that. So we're going to do a discussion on augments that will hopefully be fairly short because we had a lot of news this week. Seriously, Turbine, when I take a week off, you do not have to unload entire updates worth of news in that week. So anyways, augments. So let's just spend a few minutes. What is the augment system? How does it work? I don't know. Do one of you guys want to go for this? Go for it.
I'll let Voodu take a stab at it. He's got the teaching voice, man. I heard it. It's really good.
Well, we're talking about the colored augment system on the gear, right?
Yep, exactly right.
And so what I love about the changes that they made to it, was it like a year ago maybe, is just how much more you can customize your gear to your specific build. You know, maybe you need to, you weren't able to find a spot to put spell power or heavy fortification or resistance, and this just gives you so many more options with your gear and which slots you're able to put things into.
Tell us how the system works.
Well, So you've got your armor and your weapons, your different gear that has different colored slots on it. You got colorless slots, you've got blue slots, you've got green slots, yellow slots. So something like a green slot, and following what green is as a color, you can use either a yellow or a blue augment in that slot. And then you have red slots, and then you have orange and purple slots. And so again, following the sort of the theme that they're going with a purple slot, you can either put a red or a blue augment in there. Orange, you could put a yellow or red. And so you're going to find or purchase augments to put into these slots, and many of them are level specific. So, if you're running a low B tune, a level 10 tune, you're not going to be able to put a level 20 augment into it.
The way
But what
the way that you add them is when you have an augment, if you double click it, it'll bring up a little barter window, and you put I think it automatically puts that augment into it, and then you put an item into that, and it will add it to the slot. If it has multiple options, it'll let you choose which slot to put it in.
think carefully about which one you choose.
So
Yeah,
also, it won't let you put it in if the item that you want to add the augment to is either locked or equipped. So you have to unlock it and unequip it first. And the augment doesn't actually show up in the barter box itself. It's just kind of, I guess, assumed to be in there since the whole barter box is the augment, I guess.
Is that how it works?
Yeah.
It's been a while since I did it, so I didn't quite remember. The other thing is, augments will have a minimum level on them. If the minimum level on the item is lower than the augment, it will increase the minimum level of the item to the minimum level of the augment. So just be aware of that as well.
I think this might be a new change that they put in. I tried to put a level 28 augment on a piece of gear the other day, and on a tune that's level 27, and it said I was too low level to use it. So it wouldn't even let me put the augment in the gear.
Interesting.
Which is nice, so you don't accidentally put it in there and then realize, oh no, I can't use this weapon now.
I had never run into that before, but that's good to know.
Yeah, I hadn't had that happen either. The other thing to be aware of is that if you put an augment into a slot where you already have an augment, it'll overwrite it, and it doesn't warn you. So, double check and make sure this is what you want to do before you click finish.
One last thing to note here, too. There is an older version of augments. So if you have a very old epic weapon that may have augments in it, you may have to rebuild the weapon. You don't have to build a new one, but if you have to put it in, I think it's the Stone of Change with a couple of tokens, and it basically, when you do that, it resets the item and it converts it to the new augment system. You can't use the new augments in an old augment system item.
True.
So you might run into that. You probably won't at this point, but if you're an older player and have some old epic gear, you might have to make that adjustment as well.
One more thing on the augment mechanics in addition to that, and that was a good call, thanks for bringing that up. There's still the guild augments, and they work differently. They don't drop anymore, but you might still have one left over. Don't want to spend a lot of time on them because it's kind of a historical part of the game that's now quite old, but still exists and still works, and you can actually still buy new augments to fit in your guild augment slots. And also, if you do have a new augment that you really like, but you're done with the weapon, you can take that augment back out using a jeweler's toolkit, and those do drop in loot, so you can sometimes buy them on the auction house, and you can also get them from the DDO store.
You can also get them through your daily dice as well.
And cards. Your card.
Yep.
There's a card combination that gets you a few jeweler's toolkits.
And it's worth noting too, some augments are, if you're going to go to the store to get an augment, check the toolkit, because some augments are more expensive than a toolkit and some are cheaper. So it may be cheaper if you already have the augment to pull it out of something else. Okay, so let's talk about where you can get augments from. The first one is the store. You can buy augments in the store. They usually, I think most of the augments, I think the most expensive augments you get in the store currently are just under 200 turbine points, but there's some that are cheaper, down to 50 turbine points. And there's some good ones that are pretty cheap too, like Heavy Fortification isn't that expensive. You can get, I believe you can get the ones that affect your weapon damage type from the store. So that's an option. See, epic tokens. You can turn in 20 epic tokens to get a selection of augments. In particular, the ones that change, that add type of damage to your weapon for bypassing DR. And kind of the ones that have been around longer are all in there. I will say though, it takes 20 tokens to get an augment that costs less than 200 turbine points. It also costs 20 of those same tokens to get a True Heart of Wood, which costs 1,500 turbine points.
Yeah, that's a horrible way to get. Well, there is one augment there though that you can't otherwise buy in game, right? Isn't there? Like heavy? No, not heavy fort.
Heavy Fort you can buy in the store.
Yeah. Well, I mean, without having to use turbine points. I think that used to be the case, but that there was one augment there that you couldn't buy in game anywhere else. But I don't think that's true anymore anyway. So.
No, I think they all at least all the augments drop too. That's the thing. Like you can, so that's another way you can get them in random as a random loot item. They drop all over the place. You can get them. There's a few that are augments that are named that you have to get from a specific place, but otherwise they're all the augments you can find in random loot. Some are rarer than others. The new ones in particular are pretty rare and pretty hard to find, but you can get those. You can also get them with Giant Hold relics and combinations of heroism in the Giant Hold. Those are the augments that I think those are the ones that are like minimum level 28. Basically, the ones that are a little bit above what you get for the tokens, and they're much more reasonably priced. Oddly enough, it actually takes 21 relics. It's like 7 of each relic and a couple combinations of heroism, but you can't necessarily, other than upgrading loot, raid loot, you can't really do much else with those, anyways. Let's see. There's the collectible system. You can get augments through the collectible system, but I believe it's just you get like a random augment.
Yep. A lot of people aren't aware that the collectors in the different houses in the marketplace and in the harbor and so on actually offer augments.
Yeah, it's not something that I utilize because if I'm not mistaken, it's a random augment. You don't really get to pick the augment. And two, they're fairly low-level augments, so it's not stuff that I really need anyways.
You can pick the augment if you pay shards. So I think it's something like 9 shards, and you can get a heavy fort augment, which I think is probably the cheapest way to find a heavy fort augment, for example.
Yeah, I think my favorite way to get that is to go into Invaders and get the Ring of Balance, which has one built in. But so you could get level 4 or minimum level 8 augments from collectors, regular collectors. And you need to have 30 common collectible items, 10 uncommons, and 5 rares. So it's pretty steep. And yeah, you don't control what you get. Now, once you get to minimum level 12, you can get those for Giant Hold relics in Giant Hold, and level 16. And in those cases, you do get to pick what you get. It's not a random choice. That's much better. So you need, like, now I'm working from memory here, but like 6 of each kind of Giant Hold relic to get a minimum level 12 augment. Does that sound right, Voodu?
Something like that, yep.
Yeah. Those are not those are the lower one, the heroic version, not the epic version ones, right?
That's correct. The heroic, and then once you get to level 20 and 24, you can buy those in Giant Hold also with epic relics. Which would they call those? I forget. I don't know. There's a word for them. They're surrounded in purple. And that gets you level 20 and level 24 augments. And again, it's not a random thing. So that's how I usually get my augments, because I just have all kinds of relics, because I run Giant Hold all the time.
The other place you can get them is augments don't bind in general. I think there's one exception to that, but you can get them in the auction house as well. So that's an option. If you're looking for something, you can go look there. Generally, if I know I'm looking for an augment, the first thing I'll do is I'll check the auction house to see if there's one there, and then maybe I'll go to the store if I don't like the price I can find there as well, if it's one that you can get in the store. Are there any other places that you can get augments from?
Yes, there are named augments that only drop in quests. For example, the Imperial Globe of Blood, you can get it only in Giant Hold Tour, heroic version, and the epic version you can only get in epic Giant Hold Tour, I think. I think that is correct.
Sounds right.
There's draconic one that gives you 30 fire resistance in everything, and that only drops in quests. I don't know which one.
It's the raid. And it only drops on Epic Elite, I think, too.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's 30 of each resistance, but you can only get it in the raid on Epic Elite.
There are several augments that you can only get during events. The one that gives your weapon silver and does, undead damage, undead main damage. There's another one, I forget what it is. Anyway, those you can only get from the Maybar event.
There's the silver one, I think, does light damage, and there was one that on critical hits it gives you it drains levels from monsters.
Okay.
The Endless Night augment, that's an awesome augment.
Yeah.
They're the new kind of augments, which are just burst effects that scale with your minimum level. They like 2d6 burst effect at low level, and it goes all the way up to, like 10d 70, some huge number. And those seem to be random drops. They seem to come anywhere. You just have to get really lucky to get it at all. Pardon?
You can also get those from the cards.
And from the only certain ones, but yes.
Right.
Yes. And then my very favorite one of all is you take I don't remember what it's called, but you take your Voice of the Master, and you take your Cloak of the World Shaper, and you go to and you need 5 greater epic tokens, and I don't remember if you also need 20 regular epic tokens.
Nope.
I think you might.
Nope.
And you go to the epic vendor, and he will give you an augment that is a plus 5% XP augment, colorless, with no minimum level that you can put in anything.
The gift of the master.
Thank you.
And I was actually just going to get to that. One thing to note with that, it's a great augment, but it's like the one exception that's actually bound to character, and when you put it in an item, it makes that item bound to character, even if it was already bound to account. So just be aware of that when you slot it in. I think it gives you a pop-up window to tell you that it's going to be bound to character, but something to know about. Fifth place, I didn't really notice this either. Some of the random loot gen augments will come preloaded into named items, particularly in the giant hold. Pretty much every, or most of the items you can pull out of the giant hold that have slots, depending on the level, will have something slotted into them already. So that's another option as well.
One of the nice things that's coming out in Three Barrel Cove is that there's going to be an item with a pre-slotted diamond of Intimidate 20.
Oh,
That's
nice.
not something you can find, so grab
Sweet.
some of those.
Yeah, that's pretty spliffy. Let's see. So let's talk about what are augments that you look for. And let's start with Voodu. What are some of the augments that you like to find?
Well, big plug to my favorite one, which is the Meridian Fragment. And if you don't know what that is, it's an orange augment that does a couple of things. One, it reduces the cost for maximizing your spells by 6. So if you already have efficient meta magic in your enhancement line, and you have the Meridian Fragment, normally to maximize a spell, you're looking at 25 extra spell points. But if you have an efficient meta magic, that's -9, Meridian Fragment -6, and now you're looking at only 10 extra spell points to maximize a spell. Then what it also does is if you get hit in melee, I can't remember if it's 100% proc rate or if there's just a chance that you get a 6 stacking spell power, which can stack up to 3 times, so a plus 18 to your spell power. And this is an orange augment, so perfect for your Thunderforged weapons. And if you haven't crafted your Thunderforged weapons yet, you can actually craft up to tier 2 very easily with unbound ingredients. You could even craft that without ever having run either of the new raids even once. And with your tier 2, you get your orange augment, you put your Meridian Fragment in there. If you're a caster, yeah, it's one of the best augments that you can have.
It can be hard to find, though.
Yes.
I think your options are, because theoretically it can drop in the chest. I've never seen that particular one drop. And raid loot in general seems to have an incredibly low drop rate. Turbine, if you're listening, check the drop rate on the raid loot in these raids. It is ridiculously hard to find stuff. Although, having said that, I did pull the belt out of Deathworm on my first run on my tank, who wanted it. Well, someone else pulled it and I got it. But so, But yeah, that can be hard. I think you pretty much have to run 20 completions to get that. So
Have you seen any loot drop recently in either of those raids?
I've seen the bracers drop once. I've seen 3 of the necklace from Deathworm. I got the belt the one time.
Anything in the past couple of weeks?
Well, those are all probably within the last. Are probably all since the patch.
Okay.
But the drop rate still seems ridiculously low, and I
Very.
I can't think that's correct. It's just way, in my opinion, it's way too steep. Granted, I've mostly been running on normal, but I would still expect um, at least one item or run should realistically be dropping, in my opinion, and it's far less than that. Not that I've run as many as some other people, but it's less. Anyways, do you have any other augments that you like to look for?
For me, it's pretty situational. I mean, I usually kit out my character without thinking of the augments, and then use the augments to fill in whatever I couldn't get and put them wherever I need them. So, heavy fort is always welcome. The stacking toughness is always nice. Um, they're very good for making. They're not so. They're good for making heroic caster weapons. So, because it's pretty easy to craft something that has the right lore on it, and then you can buy the matching spell power augment. So, just look on the auction house for a weapon that has an empty slot, and there you go. So, but I don't build. I mean, I've never seen the Meridian Fragment, but I don't really seek out augments in the way I do certain other kinds of named loot. I just use them to fill things out.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I like to get to the master. That's the one. Something that I tend to use a lot is PRR augments to get some of that, particularly on characters that don't have any, because going from 0 to 14 is or even to 12, I think is like I want to say it's 6% damage. I have to look it up. And then I'll use it to fill out stats. It tends to be one of two scenarios. Either I'm using it on a melee or martial kind of a weapony kind of character, so that they can get their stats above 10, so they can use silver flame pots. Is
Right.
one thing, or on my casters to get strength so that they can carry stuff is a common thing for me. Um, Also for kind of the martial guys, an SP augment works really well. Typically, like the guys who use a lot of weapons don't typically have spell point items, uh, and they don't typically have room for them. So an open yellow slot for some spell points works really well. My casters, for whatever reason, typically don't have strength, and they have no strength to begin with anyway, so they can't run because they can't carry anything. So that seems to be two common threads. Um, Fortification is a good one. Featherfall. I've used Featherfall on a few occasions. But yeah, it's pretty much anything I don't have on gear that I have an open slot I can squeeze in. I don't know if you guys use it. I never use the resistance ones. I don't slot resistance in anything.
No,
I
it's
sell
too
'em.
easy to cast a spell,
Yeah,
or get a ship buff.
or a potion.
Yeah.
There's a lot of options for resistance. And I don't feel it's worth using a slot up for that.
I'm a big fan of the Globe of True Imperial Blood. That gives +1 exceptional stat to all stats.
Yep, that's a nice one. Although I still kind of come back to this concept of +1 to a stat. Or kind of, I was +1 to all six stats, but +1 or even +2 to a stat, in the grand scheme of things, is not that big of a boost in your power. As opposed to something like, if I can choose between getting +2 to one stat and +30 hit points,
Right.
I'm gonna go for +30 hit points, just because of the way the game works. And in very few situations is that +1 to your stat modifier really going to be that big of a thing.
Are you finding that you have an abundance of slots on your tunes, or that you're very limited?
It depends on the character, but in general, I would say I have more slots than I use, mostly because I can't figure out what I'm going to put in it.
Yeah.
And because it's not, and I want to talk about this next, but I don't go buy an augment unless it's something that I find is like, I really need this augment on this character. It's really going to flesh something out,
Right.
right?
Absolutely.
Particularly things like, getting a character up to where he can use little flame pots without getting in becoming useless is kind of one thing. Um, I did, and well, I'm going to use this as a transition into what is a good price to pay for stuff. I did buy a Meridian Fragment and a Golem Heart augment on the auction house, and I paid about 400 shards between the two of them, which is a pretty,
Low.
huh?
That's probably low.
Well, I would say it's a lot. It's more than I would normally spend on an augment, but considering that I've never run the quest where you can get a Golem Heart from, I thought it worked really well for my tank, who gets hit a lot. Well, he gets swung at a lot. Doesn't necessarily get hit a lot, but and a Meridian Fragment, which basically is 20 runs of a raid on a character. That's probably going to want to pick something else at the end of the raid, anyways. I've kind of figured that was a pretty good investment, and I've been sitting on I haven't bought anything with my shards in months, because I haven't found anything and needed to buy anything. But I think for me, when we're talking about what's a good price to pay for an augment, it really comes down to how important is it to that character. If it's something that's just kind of like fleshing something out, like strength on a caster, it's usually not too hard to find even like a +4 to strength will kind of suffice. I don't necessarily need to get a +8 to strength for that for my caster just so he can carry gear. So if it's not very important, I'm not going to spend very much on it. I might even just wait till I find it. And over the last year and a half since they've been out, I've started to actually get a pretty good stockpile of shards or augments that I keep around because I think they might be useful later down the road.
Right.
What about you guys? What do you have? What are your thoughts on what you would pay for an augment?
I'm pretty spoiled being in a large guild that most of the time, if I need an augment that I don't have, I can post in guild channel. Does anybody have a heavy forward augment or a vitality? And most of the time, some guildie's going to step up. But I actually did recently buy a vitality augment out of the shard house for like 19 or 20 shards. But for something like that, I wouldn't want to spend more than that. That's another augment that's nice to have. That's a newer one to be able to get a little boost in hit points.
Right.
It's not too new. It's been there since they did the system, but you can only find it as far as I know, you can only find it in two places. One is the underwater chest in the Crucible, and I think you have to run it on heroic for that to happen.
Yeah.
And two, the Minos helm was if you get a new Minos helm, they've changed it so that it's an open slot with a vitality augment in it. So you can use a jeweler's kit to pull that out.
Oh, that's cool, because I got tons and tons of fragments of tapestries, so that's like free. I like that idea.
Well, you need the jeweler's kit.
Yeah, I have a few of those too from the cards, so I'm good with those. The only ones I've ever actually spent anything for, other than in Giant Hold, trading in-game stuff for, because I bought a bunch from Giant Hold for a variety of different relics and epic relics, because I had so many of those. But I bought a couple of Imperial globes and one of the Draconic ones for shards. There was like a month on Sarlona when they were really cheap, and I bought two. And I've been afraid to put them in anything. So they're just taking up room in my bank slot. It's like, wait a minute, don't put it in that. I'm going to get bigger and want a better version of that. And I guess, now I've got jeweler tool sets, so maybe I'll be a little more willing to use them. But right now they're just taking up space in my bank slots.
Yeah, I would really say that this was when the Draconic Souls gems were first out. The thing that was really crazy with those was I knew someone who pulled one and then sold it for two auto boxes.
Wow.
It's like, what? So I was always hoping that I could pull one and sell one for that, but I never did. But I would say that's definitely way too much for an augment. At least personally, I wouldn't pay that much for one.
No way. No, that's what, 100 real bucks?
Yeah,
so?
something like that.
Yeah.
It was pretty ridiculous. I was pretty flabbergasted when I heard that one. But it kind of comes down to a lot of other things too. When you're talking about loot, what do you want to get for loot? Well, how much is it worth to you? It kind of comes out of that question all the time. It doesn't matter what kind of loot you're talking about. How much is it worth to you? What's important for you? How important is it for that character? That's really what's going to kind of drive how much you're going to pay for it. But I don't. Like I said, I paid 400 shards for 2 augments, and I had to convince myself to do that a little bit. Now there are ones that I thought for those 2 characters that I'm going to put them on, it made like they're great augments for those characters, and I'm okay with the price, but it felt like a lot to spend on characters. So
I think you got them for a good price.
yeah, well that's good. I felt
Especially
at least
Meridian Fragment.
yeah, the Meridian Fragment I was like, okay, 200 shards. It was like 200 for each. 200 shards for Meridian Fragment. That 20 runs of yeah, I'm willing to pay that. 200 shards, yeah, that one was easy. The Golem Tower was kind of like, do I really want this? It's 2% chance to get a healing thing. The guy's a tank, so he gets attacked a lot. Yeah, sure, I'll take it. But
I think those were a good price, but having said that, at the same time, I've never had 400 shards at the same time. I never had. So.
I had a lot of older gear that I dumped on the auction house, particularly alchemical weapons. Actually, for a while, I had some really good ones stocked up, and then I just kind of unloaded them all, and that boosted me up pretty quick. But yeah,
You can get a quick 50 shards for an alchemical Kopesh or a heavy repeater, and if
if you have the right
you can
one,
stack them up.
if you have the right one, you can get a pretty good deal out of it. Less so now with the Thunderholm ones. I think that kind of dropped the price a little bit. But back when the Shard House first came out, like, oh great, I've been meaning to get rid of a bunch of gear anyways. Pink. Got rid of a ton of stuff. All right, we're gonna close this section out. What additional augments would you like to see in the system?
Oh, well, that's a tough one.
Mine were I want to see more vitality augments and use the gamut because you can get vitality now from like +5 to like +20. Like there's different varying amounts of it now, I think, in the game. So I'd like to see some of those drop as not just a specific spot. Healing hemp. I would love to see some healing hemp augments.
That'd be pretty awesome.
Yeah, I'd love to see some of those. And spell lore. You can get spell.
You stole my thunder.
But I want to see spell lore as well. So I guess Voodu, you want to see spell lore ones.
Big time. That's always been a struggle for some of my tunes to find a place to put spell lore. My druid right now is running without ice or electric lore, but I'm looking forward to tier 3 on the Thunderforge weapon. I don't know what do you think, a red slot maybe for spell lore?
Probably that would be because
Yes.
we didn't really cover this, but the colors are kind of generally oriented to certain things. A red slot is typically your weapon stuff. Blue is typically armor stuff. Yellow is typically clothes and jewelry stuff. So yeah, red would kind of be the one that would make the most sense.
I'd like to see one that has death block, the spell effect. That would be cool.
We used to have that in the old system.
Or not death block, death ward, I guess it is.
Okay, yeah. We still have death block.
Yeah.
Death ward would be amazing too.
And a really rare named one that has freedom of movement. I don't know. I guess I'm going crazy now, huh? Okay, I'll stop.
Yeah, I'll take freedom of movement. I'd love to see that one.
I put down as like a really wishy thing to get is I would love to be able to slot like set pieces in, like get if they changed some. Like, I was thinking kind of the Evening Star sets in those chains with the combinations for Evening Star. Change them to like this piece is this set 1, this set 2, this set 3, and then give it to me in augments so I can slot it into different things.
Oh, that's a good idea. That's a really good idea. I like that.
Mostly because I love the monk set out of those. I love particularly if you're going to be a monk tank, having a chance to get hit and get the 25% damage reduction shield on you is pretty stinking awesome. But at least it's some of that, just so I can use some of those sets. I don't think that's ever going to happen, but I can wish.
Dodge augments would be nice too. Sort
of an augment version of the Gem of Many Facets. That would be sort of what you're talking about in a way.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Wow, I don't think you can even use that one anymore. I'm not sure. I have to check. Anyways, anything else you guys want to add on augments before we move on?
Not me.
Awesome. So we're gonna talk about some lightning posts. This is mostly stuff for me, but there's some stuff in here as well. You guys might be able to speak to regarding Creepy Scorp wrote in talking about some very low audio volume. He noticed in a couple episodes. Was it on purpose or is it a hangout problem? I'll tell you, it's not on purpose. Audio is kind of a tricky thing when you're doing something like this because of the number of places where you can adjust your volume. Hangouts is actually really easy because it tends to moderate everything and what we call normalizing it in the industry. It normalizes the sound volumes pretty well. Anytime I do something in game, that's when it starts to get kind of tricky. So when I do a walkthrough, particularly if I'm doing it, recording with other people, I have to try and get our levels about the same. But because I'm listening to it on my own speakers, I then run it through an editing process. It has another level of control or volume levels, which that one in and of itself also has an input and output volume speaker. You start to get a lot of multiplicative effects with audio volume. So I try to keep it so that it's really easy to listen to on an audio version, but sometimes it, just because of how many different times it goes through an audio processing with a volume control, it can be really tricky to do consistently, particularly because I adjust my speaker volume all the time on a lot of different things. So I'm always tweaking it around to adjust the volume for whatever I'm doing at the time. So that's why there's sometimes a disparity in the audio volume. I do try to make it pretty even, though, and try and get it there. But, like when I'm recording or I'm editing, I normalize it as best as I can to get everyone kind of on the same level. But then when that part gets outputted, when it kind of gets that last weirdness, and trying to figure out how loud it's supposed to be is kind of tricky. See, George had a couple of questions. Said first, he noticed that tooltips for weapons seem to be off. For example, he doesn't think that they contain elemental damage and similar effects factored into the damage rating of the weapon, which is true. They don't. As far as I know, there's no plan to fix it. What he's talking about is when you look at a tooltip for a weapon, there's a number that it flashes that's the base damage rating. That base damage rating doesn't include any of the effects on the weapon that you read at the bottom. So if they're adding weapon damage to that, it doesn't include that, at least in general. As far as I remember, when I looked at it, this was like 2 years ago, but I looked at that and compared two weapons, and it did not include any of those weapon effects on there. So you kind of have to do that part on your own. I don't know if you guys have noticed it to be incorrect.
You're talking about like if it does D6 fire damage.
Yep.
Is that added in as well? I did run some numbers pretty recently, but I can't remember. Yeah. I thought that was included, but I'm not sure.
Last I checked it, when I remember checking it, it wasn't. That may have changed, but there are definitely certain abilities that is not factored in, like something like a lightning strike or disintegration proc. That stuff's definitely not factored in there. But in general, mostly what that's referring to is the enhancement bonus of the weapon, the base damage of the weapon, and the critical profile of the weapon. However, it's still a good bar to compare weapons with. That can still be real helpful for that. See, George's second question. Thrown weapons are a hot new topic going around right now, and he's a huge fan of both bards and thrown weapon builds. Needless to say, I'm very excited about the enhanced line for bards. Will we be penalized for having an offhand weapon while throwing? Yes. That is not single weapon fighting. You cannot have a weapon in your offhand. That would not be single weapon fighting, even if you're using a thrower. So that's.
But you can have a shield. The shield won't hurt you.
A buckler won't hurt you, right?
Well, actually, single weapon fighting doesn't apply to thrown weapons at all.
Right.
Of any sort. So he's asking, are you going to lose off your 2-hit if you have a weapon in your offhand hand while you're throwing? And I think the answer to that is yes, but not if it's a shield.
Well, it has to be the right. You can't single weapon fight with a shield unless you're a swashbuckler using a buckler with the correct enhancement.
I must have misunderstood the question. Actually, I'm kind of confused because I'm fascinated by whatever that is on your TV behind you, and I'm trying to decide, is it a Colonial Viper or a Captain Power XT7 power jet?
That's a Lego model from Clone Wars.
Oh, very good. Okay.
I think. That's what it is.
I would have got there if I'd had enough guesses. I would have got there.
The thing with single weapon fighting is thrown weapons, one, don't work with single weapon fighting or swashbuckling, and two, having a weapon, an offhand weapon in that hand would negate using single weapon fighting or thrown weapons anyways. So that's the short answer. And then related to swashbuckling, any thoughts if they will add two weapon fighting into the styles? I know it defeats the purpose of the single weapon combat, but it would be nice to see offhand weapon option for players benefits from AC like Ranger Tempest instead of increased attack power. I think it'd be fun if they added at least Dagger to it. I don't think they will. It kind of defeats the purpose, as Geoff mentioned earlier. But I'd like to see Dagger, just for flavor. With that, you guys have anything to add before we close the show out here?
Not me. Now
Nope.
that I know what that thing is, I'm fine.
He's going to run out and buy one after this.
Actually, well, I had to think about what you were asking about because someone was asking me about the turkey that's there, and they thought it was a rust monster.
It does look like a rust monster.
It's a turkey. Anyways, with that, I'll say thanks to Voodu for joining us on the show for the first time. I hope to have you back.
Thanks for having me.
And thanks to Geoff. It's always nice to have Geoff back on the show.
Thank you for having me.
Yep. Thanks to the other guests that we have kind of rotating in and other people contributing to the cast. Thanks for listening to the show. Thanks to Turbine and Wizards for making some fun games. We love D&D and we love playing it online. Thanks to Cyber for hosting the podcast as well. You can hit us up at DDOCast.com for show notes, calendar, previous shows, swag, and other fun stuff. If you want to be a part of the show, you just want to say hi, you can email us at ddocast@gmail.com. You can also find us on social media and follow us for the latest cast updates. The closing tip for the week comes from Terenia. Can's Challenges has some unique items, abilities, and slot combinations you can't find in normal questing. That's absolutely true. And appropriate for our discussion on augments because there's a lot of fun, different fun augment or slots that you can do with some of those weapons or those items. In particular, the rings. I think both the rings have a yellow and a colorless slot on them. So pretty handy. Let's see. And because we missed a week, there's a second screenshot of the week. This one is Marikai facing a purple worm in the Underdark. That's the 171st screenshot of the week. So a fun one there. So until next time, may all your attack rolls be crits, all your chest level appropriate, have fun, and don't forget to utilize the augment system.